Hello students, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe my channel, press the bell button, press the like button and share it. Today I am going to explaining the magnetic effect of current second part. In that some main topics are there. First one, Lorentz magnetic force. Second, Fleming's left hand rule. Third, force on a moving charge in uniform electric and magnetic fields. Fourth, force on a current carrying a conductor in a uniform magnetic field. Fifth, force between two infinitely long parallel current carrying a conductor. Sixth one, definition of ampere. Seventh one, representation of magnetic field due to parallel current. Eighth, torque experienced by a current carrying a coil in uniform magnetic field. Ninth, moving coil galvanometer. 10th, conversion of galvanometer into ammeter and voltmeter. 11th, the difference between the ammeter and voltmeter. Now we can understand Lorentz magnetic force. A current carrying conductor placed in a magnetic field experiences a force, which means that moving charge in a magnetic field experiences a force. That is a Fm vector equal to Q bracket V vector cross B vector close the bracket, or we can write down Fm vector equal to bracket QVB sin theta close the bracket n cap, where theta is the angle between V vector and B vector. Special case. First one, if the charges is at rest, that is V equal to 0, then Fm equal to 0. So a stationary charge in a magnetic field does not experience any force. Second point, if theta equal to 0 or 180 degree, that is if the charge moves parallel or anti-parallel to the direction of the magnetic field, then Fm equal to 0. Third point, if theta equal to 90 degree, that is if the charge moves perpendicular to the magnetic field, then the force is maximum. Fm maximum equal to QVB. If a charged particle Q moves through both an electric and magnetic field, the total force acting upon it is the Lorentz force. The Lorentz force equation can be expressed as F equal to Q bracket E plus V cross B. F, E, V and B are vectors, and cross denotes the vector cross product. The QE terms is the electric field and the QV cross B is the magnetic field. According to Fleming's right hand rule, three fingers are stretched perpendicular with one another. Main finger gives the motion, forefinger gives the magnetic field, and central finger gives the direction of current flowing in the conductor. So now this is the one demonstration. So here we are using the two magnets, one is north pole and another one is the south pole. So in between one plastic board we have placed. So now we are applying the current. When current is flowing into the conductor, then the charges also flows. As the charge it will be flows, then the conductor it will be move according to the Fleming's right hand rule. Fleming's left hand rule. If the central finger, forefinger and thumb of left hand are stretched perpendicular to each other and the central finger points to current, forefinger points to magnetic field, then thumb points in the direction of motion, that is force, on the current carrying conductor. Tip: remember the phrases EMF 2 represents electric current, magnetic field and force in anticlockwise direction of the fingers of left hand. Force on moving charges in uniform electric and magnetic fields. When charge Q moves with the velocity V in region in which both electric field E and magnetic field B exist, then the Lorentz force is F equal to QE plus Q bracket V cross B, or F equal to Q bracket E plus V cross B. Force on a current carrying conductor in a uniform magnetic field. Force experienced by each electron in the conductor is F vector equal to minus E bracket V D vector cross VB vector close the bracket. If n be the number density of electrons, A be the area of cross section of the conductor, then number of electrons in the element dl is NaDl. Force experienced by the electron in dl is the F vector equal to NaDl bracket minus E Vd vector cross B vector close the bracket. That is Df vector equal to N minus N EAVD bracket dl vector cross B vector.
Force on a current carrying conductor kept in a magnetic field. In 1821, Michael Faraday demonstrated that if an electric current is flowing through a conductor placed in between the poles of a horseshoe magnet, it experiences a force. Let us perform an activity to understand this concept. Suspend a bare copper wire with the help of an insulated copper wire between the poles of a U-shaped magnet as shown here. Observe the initial position of the copper wire, a good conductor of electricity. Now close the key to complete the circuit. We observe that the conductor shifts from its original position. Now reverse the direction of the flow of the electric current. What do you observe? The conductor moves in the opposite direction. What happens to the conductor when the current is switched off? The conductor does not move. This indicates that no force is exerted on the conductor placed in a magnetic field when the current is switched off, while force is exerted on the conductor placed in a magnetic field when the current is switched on.
Forces between two parallel infinitely long current carrying conductors. Magnetic field on Rs due to current in PQ is B1 equal to mu naught I1 divided by 2 pi R. Force acting on Rs due to current I2 through it is F21 equal to mu naught I1 divided by 2 pi R I2 L sin theta, or F21 equal to mu naught I1 I2 L divided by 2 pi R. B1 acts perpendicular and into the plane of the diagram by right hand thumb rule, so the angle between I and B1 is 90 degree. L is the length of the conductor. Magnetic field on PQ due to the current in Rs is Pt equal to mu 2 I2 whole divided by 2 pi R. Force acting on PQ due to current I1 through it is F12 equal to mu naught I2 divided by 2 pi R I1 L sin 90 degree, or F12 equal to mu naught I1 I2 L divided by 2 pi R. The angle between I and B2 is 90 degree and B2 is emerging out. F12 equal to F21 equal to F mu naught I1 I2 into L divided by 2 pi R. Force per unit length of the conductor is F by L equal to mu naught I1 I2 divided by 2 pi R Newton per meter. By Fleming's left-hand rule, the conductor experience force towards each other and hence attract each other. In second, by Fleming's left-hand rule, the conductor experience force away from each other and hence repel each other. Definition of ampere. Force per unit length of the conductor is F by L equal to mu naught I1 I2 divided by 2 pi R. Newton per meter. When I1 equal to I2 equal to 1 ampere and R equal to 1 meter, then F equal to 2 into 10 to the power of minus 7 Newton per meter. 1 ampere is that current which, if passed in each of two parallel conductors of finitely length and placed
1 meter apart in vacuum causes each conductor to experience a force of 2 into 10 to the power of minus 7 Newton per meter of length of the conductor. Representation of field due to parallel currents. Torque experienced by a current loop that is a rectangular in a uniform magnetic field. Let theta be the angle between the plane of the loop and the direction of the magnetic field. The axis of the coil is perpendicular to the magnetic field. That is FSB vector equal to I into bracket small b vector cross capital B vector. That is the modulus of FSB equal to IB capital B sin theta, or FQR vector equal to I into B vector cross capital B vector. That is modulus of FQR equal to I small b capital B sin theta. Forces F vector SP and F vector QR are equal in magnitude but opposite in direction, and they cancel out each other. Moreover, they act along the same line of action and hence do not produce a torque. That is F PQ vector equal to I bracket L vector cross B vector, or modulus of FQ equal to ILB sin 90 degree. So here sin 90 equal to 1, therefore I into L into B, or F vector RS equal to I L vector cross B vector, or modulus of FRS equal to ILB sin 90 degree, that is equal to ILB. Forces PQ vector and FRS vector being equal in magnitude but opposite in direction cancel out each other and do not produce any translation motion, but they act along different lines of action and hence produce torque about the axis of the coil. Torque in vector form, that is tau equal to NIAB sin phi, tau vector equal to bracket NIAB sin phi close the bracket n cap, where n cap is the unit vector normal to the plane of the loop. Now tau vector equal to NI bracket A vector cross B vector, or tau vector equal to N M vector cross B vector, since M vector equal to I A vector is the magnetic dipole moment. Note the coil rotate in the anticlockwise direction from the top view according to the figure about the axis of the coil as shown by the dotted line. Second point, torque acts in the upward direction along the dotted line according to Maxwell's screw rule. Third, if theta equal to 0 degree, then theta equal to 0. Fourth point, if theta equal to 90 degree, then theta is maximum, that is tau maximum NIAB. Fifth point, units B in Tesla, I in ampere, A in meter square and tau in Newton meter. Sixth point, the above formula for torque can be used for any irrespective of its shape. Moving coil or suspended coil or T or Snowball type kilometer. Torque experienced by the coil is tau equal to NIAB sin phi. Restoring torque in the coil is tau equal to K alpha, where K is the restoring torque per unit angular twist, alpha is the angular twist in the wire. At equilibrium, NIAB sin phi equal to K into alpha. Therefore, I equal to K whole divided by NAB sin phi into alpha. The factor sin phi can be eliminated by choosing radial magnetic field. Radial magnetic field. The top view PS of plane of the coil PQRS lies along the magnetic lines of force in whichever position the coil comes to rest in equilibrium. So, the angle between the plane of the coil and the magnetic field is 0 degree, or the angle between the normal to the plane of the coil and magnetic field is 90 degree. That is sin theta equal to sin 90 degree equal to 1. Therefore, I equal to K divided by NAB alpha, or I equal to G into alpha, where G equal to K divided by NAB is called galvanometer constant. Current sensitivity of galvanometer, it is the deflection of galvanometer per unit current, that is alpha by I equal to NAB whole divided by K. Voltage sensitivity of galvanometer, it is the deflection of galvanometer per unit voltage, that is alpha by V equal to NAB whole divided by K into R. Of moving coil. You can see the poles are U-shaped permanent magnets. Core is an aluminum frame and made of magnetic alloys like alnico. The pointer is carried by the spindle and moves over a graduated scale. When the coil is supported between two jewel bearings, the control torque is provided by two phosphorus hair springs. The principle of moving coil is based on Fleming's left-hand rule. Scale is used to measure the DC voltage. When the switch is off, no current flow through the circuit and coil generate no magnetic field. Hence the pointer stays at 0. When the switch is on, current flows through the coil and the current creates a temporary magnetic field that repels the magnetic field generated by the permanent magnet. As a result, torque is produced and the moving coil starts moving and pointer moves with the coil and shows the reading.
Moving coil galvanometer. Galvanometer is an electromagnetic device capable of detecting very small electric currents. This is also known as Western galvanometer. Click on the bakelite top of the galvanometer to view the parts. The basic design of a moving coil galvanometer is shown here. It consists of a coil of wire wound on an iron core. The coil is pivoted between the poles of a horseshoe magnet. Observe that the poles of the magnet are concave. These are the hair springs that control the motion of the coil. These hair springs also serve as leads and make contact with two terminals provided at the top of the bakelite frame. A pointer is attached perpendicular to the coil. The free end of the pointer moves over an arc-like graduated scale. The scale is graduated in such a way that 0 is at the center of the scale. Let us now see how a galvanometer is used in an electric circuit. Observe the animation shown here and deduce your inference. The galvanometer is connected to a battery, rheostat, and a reversing key as shown in the circuit diagram. Click on the reversing key to close the circuit. Now change the direction of flow of current. Click on the link provided to check your inference. The pointer deflects when the current flows through the circuit. The direction of deflection of the needle changes with the change in the direction of flow of current. The pointer deflects when the current flows through the circuit because the coil experiences a torque and rotates, resulting in deflection of the needle. Observe the deflection of the needle when the slider of the rheostat is moved.
It has been experimentally observed that the number of scale divisions, n, indicated by the pointer, is proportional to the current Ig in the galvanometer coil. That is, Ig is directly proportional to n, or Ig is equal to Kn, where K is the current sensitivity.
Conversion of galvanometer to ammeter. Galvanometer can be converted into ammeter by shunting it with a very small resistance. Potential difference across the galvanometer and shunt resistance are equal. Therefore, bracket I minus Ig close the bracket into S equal to Ig capital G, or S equal to Ig into capital G divided by I minus Ig. Conversion of galvanometer into voltmeter. Galvanometer can be converted into voltmeter by connecting it with a very high resistance. Potential difference across the given load resistance is the sum of potential difference across the galvanometer and potential difference across the galvanometer resistance. Therefore, V equal to Ig bracket G plus R. R equal to V divided by Ig minus capital G.
Galvanometer has a low resistance and hence it cannot be used to measure large current directly. A galvanometer can be converted into an ammeter by connecting a resistor of low resistance in parallel to the galvanometer as shown in the circuit diagram. This resistor of low resistance that is connected parallel to the galvanometer is known as the shunt. A galvanometer can be converted to a voltmeter by connecting a resistor of high resistance in series as shown in the circuit diagram.
Differences between ammeter and voltmeter. First ammeter, then voltmeter. One by one I am going to explain. First point, it is a low resistance instrument. Here voltmeter, it is a high resistance instrument. Second point, resistance is capital G S by capital G plus S. In voltmeter, resistance is capital G plus R. Third point, shunt resistance is G capital G Ig divided by I minus Ig and is very small. Voltmeter series resistance is V by Ig minus capital G and is a very high. Fourth point, it is always connected in series. It is always connected in parallel. Fifth point, it is resistance of an ideal ammeter is 0. Voltmeter resistance of an ideal voltmeter is infinity. Sixth point, its resistance is less than that of the galvanometer.